Hello, everyone. So we were just kind of talking before we started here about what is the best diet out there. And someone yelled out DASH diet, and somebody else said Mediterranean diet, and somebody else said keto, somebody else said vegan, someone else said vegetarian. This gentleman said whatever diet works best for you. This woman over there says no diet works well, no diet's the best diet. But so today, in fact, someone, I don't know this person, but I heard she's actually very well known, but she wrote the DASH diet, the Mediterranean solution. Isn't that interesting? And so today we're going to talk about what the best diet out there, and I kind of gave you guys a clue. The olive oil solution, right? And so vegetarian diets have it, vegan diets can incorporate it, DASH diet can have it, Mediterranean diet. So I kind of hope confuse you guys all a little bit, but I'm going to clarify it all for you in just a little bit. So how about if I turn it on? There we go. All right. So I've always been driven by this quote by Hippocrates, the father of medicine. Have you heard it before? Yes. Recently I was told that he never said this. So it kind of screws up my whole intro. But according to legend, he once said this, but apparently he's never said this. So, but I like to keep it up because I think it's a good reminder that, you know, medicine and food are important together. And I think what we do here at Physiologic, at Fresh, is we kind of blend it into a food-first approach. And there's a couple of patients that are in the room today who kind of understand this connection. And in my practice, I put food first. So instead of giving a pill for an ill, I'm going to give you a food plan first. If the food doesn't work, then we go into supplements. And then if that doesn't work, then we go into pills. So it's kind of bringing the whole kind of the way we do it differently. And again, homage to the past. And so this is true prescriptions. For those who remember back in the day, these are things that people couldn't read. And they were called prescriptions that we took out of our thing, out of our desk, and we started writing prescriptions. So these are real prescriptions from where I was back in the day working. And you can see, I said, eat real food, 365, eat a whole food plant-based diet, eat fruits and vegetables, 365. Does anyone know the minimum serving, the RDA servings of fruits and vegetables you should be eating every day? 5, 80. 8. No, 0. I like 80. 80 is pretty good. 8. Anyone else?
I think she eating 2 cups.
All right. That's about right. So 5 to 9 servings of fruits and vegetables. And in fact, the Greeks, in their traditional diet, eat the most vegetables from a culture point of view. They eat roughly anywhere between 9 to 11 vegetables per day. Shakes, salads, stir fries. Easiest way to jump in, get 5 to 9 servings of fruits and vegetables a day, okay? And so part of my story continues by me becoming a chef. And these are doctors in training that I took them out of the hospital and into the kitchen to teach them how to cook. The simple principle was that a doctor's own health behavior was a very big predictor of them counseling their patients about a behavior. Doctors that don't smoke tell the patients not to smoke. Doctors that wear helmets when they ride their bike tell their patients to wear their bike. So I had this idea. If I took patients, doctors, into the kitchen to teach them how to cook whole food plant-based diets, maybe they would have that conversation with patients more often. And guess what? It happened. Because we started prescribing food as medicine. And the reason why I gave out prescriptions is that we found that if I write a prescription for a patient, I'm likely to fill it. And then we started talking about this. And then, so this is actually an outdoor rooftop garden. And actually we call it a farm because they actually grew fruits and vegetables as well, herbs, at Lenox Hill Hospital. And what I loved about it is that, so this is my wife and I, and actually you can still go up there today to Lenox Hill Hospital. It still stays there long after I left. When I left in 2015, 20,000 people visited the garden. And they said it couldn't happen. But in fact, it's still there, and it's really what we call our baby, until Fresh Med came into our being. And so, as you can see, this is rocking chair. This is me giving a class about plants and herbal medicine. 80% of pharmacies and drugs come from plant sources. And this is one of our favorite restaurants up on the Upper East Side, Candle Cafe. If you go there, you say your friends are Dr. Graham, they'll give you 10% discount. All right, Joy and Bart, you heard that 10% discount for everyone that says Dr. Graham is patient. And what's lovely about it is that people started coming up there and eating the fruits up there. So every Tuesday we ended up having a clip party where we clipped some of the vegetables so that patients wouldn't rip the beautiful plant, and so we gave them so they can cook with it. And so this is our new baby, and now it's 2.5 years old, and it's called Fresh Medicine. Sorry, I've been traveling a lot. I was just in LA giving a talk. And so Fresh is an acronym for what I call the 5 ingredients to health. And combined, my wife and I have been doing this for almost 50 years combined. And we realize that if you have your food, relaxation, exercise, sleep, and happiness, you get fresh. And the whole point about the whole pillars and the ingredients is that if you do this, you're going to need medicines less, right? But unfortunately, the way we work today is that we focus on a pharmaceutical-driven model where we don't address these 5 ingredients to health and well-being. Cool? And so I'm going to transition. That's a little bit about me and how we got to Fresh and how we got to Physiologic. But I want to focus on this simple question that I think, what's for dinner? And I literally just finished with a patient at 5:45, and this is one of the questions she has. Because you hear a lot of contrary opinions, and that's why I frame this talk on what's the best diet. And ultimately, the best diet is the one that you stick with. Okay, and I'm going to show you some data. And I think one of the things I try to do in my practice and in my speech, in my talks, is that I give you an opinion and I give you science, okay? Because this world today is full of alternative facts or fake news, right? And so my goal is to clarify that, to get the real deal based on science, okay? And so people have this, like, can I still have this? Can I still have that? And the answer is most of this stuff is no. And again, we are bombarded, and as I showed you here before, so these are 3 diet books, right? And I love it, patients bring me another one and another one. And by the way, bring books, and then I read it, I do the research, so you don't have to, okay? And so again, you know, Living to 100, I like this one. The China study, this is T. Colin Campbell, who's, you know, the China study is a very fascinating study. My favorite guy is Michael Pollan, very simple ideas, but this is kind of what you see every day. And this is we're confused about what to eat. But we do know what we're eating, 63% of our calories, this is just updated this year, comes from processed foods, okay? A big joke, one of my patients told me that if food comes in a box, eat the box because at least you have fiber, okay? Real food doesn't come in a box. If it's made in a plant, don't eat it. It's from a plant, eat it. You get it? Simple concepts like that. So again, plant foods only about 12%, animal about 25% of total calories. This is why we call this the standard American diet, and true, it's sad. And so this is a recent study just came out about a month ago. For every 10% increase in the amount of ultra-processed foods consumers eat, there's a 14% increased risk of early death, okay? So if you take one thing away from us today, besides delicious olive oil, is that processed foods will kill you. And Chef D, and I met recently, but from a common acquaintance who I was just about a month ago testifying in City Hall to ban processed foods out of our schools in New York City. And I don't know if you saw what the splash was this Monday. Meatless Monday is happening in all New York schools next year, okay? Now the question is, they're going to be replacing it with it. And if you saw the thing, Bill de Blasio was eating a grilled cheese sandwich, which again, it's not animal, but you have to think about why he chose that. Anyway, processed food kills earlier, and the Surgeon General says the standard American diet causes about 2/3 of deaths due to disease in America. And in fact, most recently, our diet, not tobacco, has become the #1 cause of death and #1 cause of disability in the United States, okay? So our food is literally killing us. So tobacco, food kills 3 times more people than tobacco used to. Globally, same problem, 1 in 5 deaths are due to malnutrition. And if you're old enough like me to remember malnutrition was little African kids in Ethiopia because of undernourishment. And in fact, today, that's shifted from the African kid to the kid in socioeconomic poverty eating junk food. Obesity in our kids is killing our kids faster than it's killing us. And so sometimes, want to read that? Sometimes you got to change the way you look at things, right? And so when you think about the fountain of youth, I go back to things like the blue zones. How many people have heard of the blue zones? 1, 2, okay. So blue zones, if you don't know, Dan Buettner, anthropologist, kind of stumbled upon this idea that people that live the longest are 5 places in the world. Loma Linda, California, yes, in America, Costa Rica, Sardinia, Iquitos, Greece, and Okinawa, Japan. Okay? Now, they have 9 characteristics, the power of 9. And tonight we're going to focus just on the food. Okay? And I'm going to target you more to this area. You guys get the clue, another clue of what the best diet is out yet? You got it. All right, so the Mediterranean diet. Like perfect timing. So the reason why I think the Mediterranean diet, again, is the best diet out there, because number one, there's a lot of scientific data, okay? Emphasizes plant-based foods, emphasizes real foods. If you go to Iquitos, Greece, if you go to Sardinia, right, they don't have things that are processed. They're slowly starting to, and in fact, Okinawa, Japan has a number 3 or 4 fastest growing fast food industry. And so unfortunately, wherever fast food, American food goes to, diseases follow, okay? And so again, heavy on fruits, vegetables, whole grains, nuts and legumes, olive oil instead of butter, low fat and cheeses. Again, I have a philosophy that olive oil is good for you in low amounts. Now I'm putting my chef hat on, okay? My vegan community sometimes does not recommend olive oil because of its processing. And I would argue the fact that the scientific data that I'm going to show you shows some benefit of olive oil, okay? Be dairy aware, okay? Try to eliminate dairy as much as possible. Eat fish and poultry, limit red meat, red wine in moderation, and in fact, 6 glasses of water a day, wine in moderation. What I love about it more than anything else is it kind of gives you how to eat monthly, weekly, daily, but more importantly, it's based upon physical activity, a lifestyle. So some people would argue that the Mediterranean diet gains its benefit because of Mediterranean lifestyle, not so much the diet, okay? You ever seen an Italian eating by himself? You ever see a Greek eat by themselves? All right, there you go. All right, we invited a Greek here today to keep me honest. All right, so the reason why I say it's the #1 diet, yes?
How do you know, there's a lot of olive oil, but how do you know if it's really good?
Oh, beautiful. John, what do you think? You have answers to that question in a little bit? All right, great. Well, you're going to taste. You're going to taste it. It's not my first rodeo. I've been doing this before, and I know people want to know that question. I'll talk a little bit about the science, but I really want you guys, just like I do in my culinary classes, you can't talk about food, you can't talk about nutrition without touching food. So today we can't talk about olive oil without tasting it. So just last month, #1 diet overall, Mediterranean diet. Why? Because perhaps it's a misnomer. It's not really such a diet. It's about ideas of a lifestyle. And I just want to show you best diet overall, best diet for diabetes, best diet for healthy eating, best diet heart health, best plant-based diet. #1 easiest diet to follow. You can see 17 weight loss and 30 fast. So the point is this: when you eat healthy and you follow a healthy way of living, weight loss is a side effect. And I think that's going to be the next biggest trend. So because anybody that focuses on weight loss, you jump on a diet, you jump off a diet, right? So trying to understand a way of living is a more important way of doing it. All right, I'm just going to show you some science. Again, Eric Rim, professor at medicine at Harvard Medical School, for sustained weight loss. And that's the important part. Every single diet works, okay, if the goal is short-term weight loss. That's why Atkins, vegans, Mediterraneans, keto, medo, paleo, vegan, the list goes on and on and on, right? Everything works if short-term weight loss is the answer. But I don't think that's the answer. Maybe if you're getting married. So why is the Mediterranean diet? And so as I said to you, I recently graduated chef school. And so that's like a pose that every chef has to give. I don't know why. It makes us look badass, right? And the reason why I like the Mediterranean diet, because I'm a foodie, I love to cook and I love to eat. You know, I am board certified in integrative functional, preventive, and culinary medicine. In fact, I started this movement with a bunch of my colleagues called culinary medicine, the intersection between culinary arts and the science of medicine, which you are going to be hearing, feeling, seeing, and tasting tonight. And I feel that I'm a chef. I can talk about this from a food point of view, and nutrition is a cornerstone of preventive medicine. And again, My wife and I started Fresh Med about 2.5 years ago. My wife is a yoga teacher, meditation teacher, and aromatherapist. So she kind of has the mind and body. I got the body going down, right? And so tonight I really want to talk to you about really quick history of the diet, why adherence means longer death, and then kind of deconstructing with a focus on olive oil tasting. And then I want to say how to make an appointment to see me today, all right? I'm going to give everybody a discount to see me. People sometimes feel like I'm worth it, okay? So by the end of the talk, you're going to understand what the Mediterranean diet, why it's good, why you should use olive oil, and how you want to make an appointment to see me. So again, I'm not going to focus so much on this because I really want to get to the tasting and just understand some of the science. Cool? All right. If I'm speaking fast, I'm sorry. I'm from Queens. Blame my mother and my father. All right? So again, as I said before, Southern Mediterranean, Greece, Crete, Middle East, Southern Italy, 1960s. Why 1960s? Because the things that are killing us today weren't around that time. Okay? And again, going back to the blue zones. And again, I just want to show you the pyramid, another schematic. This is all really important, but in fact, physical activity is the idea as well. What should you do? Do something. How much should you do? Do some. Some is better than none. Okay? And back in the day, there was no gyms, there was no treadmills, there was no elliptical machines, there was no Dreadmaster, right? So the idea was that you get up and walk. And that's what I think we've forgotten as well. And then this guy came along. 1961, Ancel Keys came along. I won't go into this study so much. But basically, it was a large study that showed, trying to understand the correlation between diet and coronary heart disease. Okay? Anybody heard about this study, Ancel Keys? There's some debate about his methodology. But I just wanted to frame the picture here. Why do we eat? Because we don't want to die of heart disease. And we found that people in the island of Crete consume more fats, but yet had heart disease. And that was kind of weird, right? And so that propelled the movement of a low-fat 1980s craze. And as a chef, you start thinking about there's three things: salt, fat, and sugar. If you remove fat, you're going to add more salt and more sugar. If you remove sugar, you got to add more fat. And so the idea that low fat became a trend, and all we did was get fatter and sicker because of diabetes. Okay? And so I just wanted to, this is a large study that showed that there was something going on in the type of fat that people from Greece and Japan were eating. And they realized that it has to do something with the olive oil and the fish that they ate. To be continued. Again, also important is that there was a lot of physical activity. And then he concluded that diet was the most single factor. And again, that's why fresh, it starts with food. But the other ones are really important. Next thing, fast forward a couple years, Lion heart study. Now, remember, this was diet and heart disease. Now, after a heart attack. So that what I showed you before was primary prevention. This is what they call secondary prevention. So if you have a heart attack, should you be cutting off olive oil? Now, this is where a lot of the studies from the China studies and a lot of my vegan communities claim. And I do agree. If you have a heart attack, you have to be really careful about the amount of oil. All oils, all fats. But that shouldn't be extrapolated for people who haven't had a heart attack. Okay? Bad science that way. Randomized controlled trial, very strong study. And what they find out, so if you had a heart attack, what was the effect of the Mediterranean diet on you getting another heart attack? Got it? First study, first heart attack. This one, second heart attack. And as you can see, so the idea here, as you can see, it's separated pretty quick, right? So you had a decreased risk, and I'll show you in another slide here. So decreased risk of having a second heart attack by adopting the Mediterranean diet, okay? Now, what's fascinating about it, that most people say, well, you reduce your heart attack because you control your cholesterol and you control. This study showed there was no significant reduction in either one. So maybe it goes back to the diet, okay? So then patients say, so what is so you kind of get that picture, okay? So Mediterranean diet before a heart attack and after a heart attack, okay? So this is the really important part about diets. Now, the reason why people don't stick on diets is because they're overcomplicated, they require drastic lifestyle changes, and then unrealistic, okay? And that's why I don't like to talk about diets. I'd like to talk about food. And so they've said, they did a study on this. So adherence to Mediterranean diet and how well you live. Adherence correlated to mortality and incidence of chronic disease. Chronic disease, I want you to think about heart disease, diabetes, obesity, to a certain sick cancer, okay? Large study again, look at this, 1.5 million people. And what they did, Alan, do you have the index score? Oh, where did he go? Did he give you a handout? Yeah, here. So I give everyone a handout. You guys can take it at home, okay? And it's to rate your adherence to a Mediterranean diet. If you don't have one, we'll give you. And so there's a scale, okay? And what I want to show you here is, again, I won't show you statistics so much, but I want to show you overall mortality, death, mortality from cancer, and mortality from Parkinson's and Alzheimer's, okay? So what I want you to consider, one is equivocal. Anything to my right is less risk. To the left is greater risk, okay? And now the triangle, I mean the diamond, is cumulative risk. All to the right, okay? For all things. And so somebody can, so greater adherence, remember diet, that's the point. You jump on a diet, you jump off a diet. This is a lifestyle. Reduction in mortality. So you had 9% decreased risk of death. From heart disease, 9%. Cancer, 6%. Alzheimer's, 13%. So doc, which component makes it so good for me? I usually have a lot more audience participation, but I know you guys won't. So the Greeks did the EPIC study. So they wanted to know what part of the Mediterranean diet. You get where I'm going with this? What part of the Mediterranean diet conferred greater risk, decreased risk of death? Okay? And you can see 24,000 men and women looking forward prospectively. Interestingly enough, these are it. Alcohol consumption, decreased risk of death. So this is an argument, okay? Now I don't tell people don't drink, I don't tell people to start drinking, okay? And when they say 1 drink a day, doesn't mean 9 on Saturday. You got it? Okay? So, but it did show a decreased risk of death. Recent studies have shown that people that do drink more than 1 glass of alcohol a day have increased risk of death. So the problem about science, it's always changing, and I think that's part of the confusion, okay? But I want to focus on the fact that you eat less meats, you have 60% vegetables, nuts, and olive oil, okay? Minimal contribution of cereals and dairy. And again, so then we're trying to find out, so nuts and olive oil, what's driving it more, okay? So this is an interesting study. They actually gave, were you part of this study? You weren't part of this study, right?
The President.
Yeah.
No, I know Ramon Stroop was
The investigator, yeah.
in charge.
Yeah.
I know how important it is and
Yeah.
impact that it has in the medical community.
Yeah, and so what's interesting about Predimed study is actually was just retracted, but because of randomization. And it's really important to understand randomization when you think about a randomized controlled trial, because the idea, you're trying to study the effect of X. Here, nuts and olive oil. And one of the study centers was inappropriately randomized. So they took them out, and then they did it again. And the same studies came out, all right? So basically what I want to show you here is that the Mediterranean diet supplemented, and which is a really interesting study, they gave people nuts and olive oil. They gave them. So there's no confusion. Eat this nut, eat these olive oil, eat both. And what you can see, that olive oil confirmed a greater risk, decreased risk of death, okay? So this is why I believe that we actually start focusing on the 3 major parts of the Mediterranean diet, and if we had more time, if we had an hour, I would give you, today we're just going to go olive oil, the omegas, the fish, and the wine. But today we're just going to focus on this. If you guys all want to do a deconstructing the wine thing, we can actually talk about it as well. So doctor, what's so great about olive oil? And I'm not going to go into much because I want you to taste it. Okay, saturated fats versus MUFAs and PUFAs, but also an important fact to consider the antioxidant effects, okay? So in olive oil, you have predominant of what they call MUFAs, monounsaturated oleoic acid, okay, that's important acid, polyunsaturated, saturated, and minor fats, okay? So the point about quality you mentioned before, higher levels of MUFAs present in olive oil with cardiovascular risk. Next part. I won't go into this because time is short here, basically this is the difference between saturated and unsaturated. Have you heard of that? Okay. You guys understand it or not really? All right. So saturated means that this molecule is saturated with H. Okay? Now, the problem with saturated fats, right, as the number of bonds decrease, the fatty acid viscosity, so it gets thicker, as well as the temperature increases. So that's why we don't recommend, unless Johan tells me something differently, don't cook on high temperatures, because the smoke point of olive oil starts denaturing. Okay? That's why in culinary school, we learn to cook with other oils, other vegetable oils, organic canola oil, avocado oil, have higher smoke points so you can actually raise it up higher. Okay? What you never want to do is fry in olive oil. It denatures the actual quality of the olive oil. Huh? Coconut similarly. You can high smoke points, so you can cook at higher temperatures. Olive oil is really intended for light saute, and I agree with my vegetarians and my vegan friends. We use way too much and we cook too high. Okay? The idea in culinary school, you learn, you start low, 1 to 2 tablespoons max. Okay? And you let the vegetables do the work. Okay? So then I want you to understand a little bit about the different types of fats and cardiovascular disease. And again, very busy slide, but I want you just to trust me. Blood pressure here, cholesterol, glucose, and cholesterol. As you can see here, everything drops when you actually consume a Mediterranean lifestyle. So then the idea of the MUFAs. Remember I said the MUFAs and the PUFAs? Okay? Monos, MUFAs rich. This is interesting now, diabetes. I hate diabetes because people die of diabetes slowly, right? Eyes go, fingers go, nerves go, kidneys go. It's a slow death. Diabetes and high blood pressure don't. If it did, we wouldn't be dying as much. Okay? So comparing a MUFA-rich diet full of olive oil versus a low saturated fat, high carbohydrate diet, as you can see, everything decreased when you're looking at total cholesterol, triglycerides, and LDL. So the only reason why olive oil is so great because of the MUFAs and PUFAs? Not really, because, and I'm going to have you if you want. So there's a group of chemicals called polyphenols. Those are the antioxidants of olive oil. And so what you want to think about, natural olive oils have the highest qualities, okay, have the highest amounts of polyphenols. And I know Joanne will talk about that in a little bit. Okay, I'll skip over this. Basically meaning that is not only the fats, but also the antioxidants in olive oil that are very important. This is where quality matters. Effects of polyphenols on heart disease. Again, another study looking at low, medium amounts of polyphenols. Remember, the best ones have the highest amounts, and we measured markers. Okay? And again, very busy slide, but I want to show you that HDL, total cholesterol, again, and fatty acids all benefited. HDL lowers increased, which we want high HDLs, low cholesterol, literally with amount of phenolic acid. Quality matters when it comes to olive oil. Again, just more data. So in conclusion, what I wanted you guys to start thinking about this, okay? It's time that we shift our mentality and our approach to diets from individual nutrients, okay? This is what I can't stand about this. But rather differences in overall foods and the quality of the foods. Remember, if you eat meat, you eat what they eat. And we talked a little bit about B12 and veganism, and just think about it. You are what they eat. And so if you can't control what they're eating, just think about you can control what you're eating, okay? I like the Mediterranean diet because it contains legumes, nuts, whole foods. Whole foods are things, a banana is a banana. A tomato is a tomato. If it has too many things in a package, you don't read it, don't eat it. Fruits and vegetables, whole grains, and more fish. Now, fish, you have to start thinking about our oceans and the quality of our fish. So again, you have to start retracting a little bit, because if you can't understand the quality of it, you should start thinking about if you should be eating it. Particularly higher, bigger, predatory fish. And I hope I've shared with you quickly that there's a huge amount of evidence, I haven't shared with you all of it, indicating the healthfulness of this eating pattern. I don't want to call it a diet, for the prevention of the things that are killing us, and also decrease in mortality. And so I want to just share with you my final slides here, and it's really my prescription to you, okay? Again, we're Fresh Med here at Physiologic. For food, eat more plants. For relaxation, meditate 5 minutes a day. If you don't have 5 minutes, at least 20 minutes. If you can't do 20 minutes, an hour. Exercise 20 minutes a day, break a little sweat, sleep 7 to 8 hours. Happiness, other people matter. And I just want to close with this. When it comes to our health, it starts with food. But at the end, what we really want in life is to be happy. I'm happy to be with all of you. I'm happy for your attention. I'm happy that Joanne's here. I'm happy that Alan's here. And I'm happy that we're in Physiologic.